Alex Garland has returned to form this year with Annihilation as a follow-up to his previous film Ex Machina, which was very well received, a Hitchcockian thriller involving artificial intelligence and questions about it.
Yep.
Annihilation is no different in the questions it asks and the ferocity with which he leaves you with absolutely no answers. Starring Natalie Portman, who headlines a massive talent of cast. That's what I'm going to call a group of talented actors. I'm going to start calling a talent. Like a troupe. Maybe you should just call them a troupe. It's TROUPE, not TROOP.
Troop of actors. Okay.
Yeah. So, just a little bit of background on Annihilation. I've forgotten the author's name, but it is based on the first book in a trilogy of books called the Southern Reach Trilogy. And the basic premise is that a woman and a group of other women, so a group of women, one large group, well, semi-large, about 5 of them. I'm really not doing this very well. They go into a cordoned-off area in the United States where there's been some kind of weird scientific phenomenon called the shimmer.
Yes.
She goes
Big,
in...
colourful...
Big, colourful, like, petrol barrier.
Yeah.
Yeah. To start off, there's been some interesting production background on this film. So I didn't tell you before. You may already know. At a screening of the film, one of the producers, the distributors... watched the film and they were unhappy with it because they felt that it was too intellectual.
Too much.
Yeah, so they had a disagreement with the director of the film and the other producer on the film. So there was like the main producer and then there was the distribution.
Yep.
So distribution had a disagreement with the producer and the director. Both of them refused to change the film. Some of the requirements were like make it a little less bogged down with the intellectualization stuff. One of the other requirements was make Natalie Portman's character more sympathetic. A more sympathetic character, I think was the phrase. And they refused to do so. So in response to that, because there was no faith that a wide audience would pay money to see it, the film got a limited theatrical release in the States, and then I think it was like 2 weeks later, it got a release on Netflix internationally. And that's what we're here to talk about, that film. Now, was this an intellectual film?
A little bit.
Yeah, it was, absolutely. But was it any more intellectual than Ex Machina?
No.
No?
They're pretty much the same in that regard.
And it wasn't... When I think of, like, intellectual films, like, that are maybe too intellectual for an audience, I think of films like Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah.
Like, really, like, artistic stuff that maybe gets, like, one screening at a festival and then it goes straight to DVD. Because, you know, that's just one of those films. This was not one of them. This was a very entertaining adventure action film wrapped up very tightly in science fiction. It was almost a pure science fiction film.
Yeah, it was.
I thought. So, you enjoyed it?
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah? What was the stuff that you enjoyed? Well, this will probably contain some spoilers. We're going to try and avoid some of the bad ones, but you'll probably catch some. So, be warned.
Okay, what did I enjoy about the film? I just like the whole... I'm a sucker for, like, adventure or exploration like stuff, and this movie was very much one of those. They were going into the unknown, and everything that went in there never came back. And that sounded promising. So what do? They go into it. But I really liked it because it was different to a lot of those kind of movies where I liked how colorful it was as well. It was
beautiful.
Oddly really, really colourful. Like, there was a lot of blues, greens, yellows.
Lots of natural colours.
Yeah.
Natural, like, bright colours.
Yeah, and it was a very artistic film in a way.
It was a wonderfully artistic... It was almost like the flip side of Ex Machina, which was all about machines and metal and cold and industry, whereas this film is like pure nature.
Yeah.
Nature, like, on steroids. So yeah, I definitely agree with all of that. It was very pretty to look at.
Yes.
Even if there was a drawback for it, like, I think some of the effects didn't look.
It was really weird in some places with the visual effects. Like, some parts did really well.
Yeah.
Other parts was could have been better.
It looked like they were 2 cycles short of the render to me. Yeah. Like, they had it, that was right there, but like they just didn't have enough time, so they polished what they could.
Yeah.
And yeah.
There was a few scenes with special effects that could have been done better, but
the film overcame that as well. What visuals they couldn't complete, they more than made up for later on in the film.
Yeah.
So yeah, like if the special effects were perhaps a little lacking, they were a minor setback. We talked about the fact that it's an all-female cast.
Yeah.
There were 3 like speaking male roles, and they were all arguably unimportant.
Yeah. Pretty much.
So there's the man, Benedict Wong, I think is the actor's name, interviewing Natalie Portman.
Yeah, the guy, asking her about what happened.
There's Oscar Isaac, who plays her husband, who goes into the Shimmer and is the only man to come out, and is very sick, and that's why she goes in.
Yeah.
And then there's the man she has an affair with, and they're all very important males in her life, but they're also very damaging males on her life, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Without getting too much, this is not a feminist film. This is a film that I think in a lot of ways avoids some of the tropes of like adventure films and science fiction by having an all-female cast.
Yeah.
They don't make a big deal out of it. There's like one line where they bring it up, and for me, so the line is like, where all the ones going in on the next mission, and Natalie Portman's like, "You're all women," and one of the other women goes, "No, we're all scientists."
Yeah.
And I can't tell if that is the film going, it doesn't matter that they're women, they're going in because they're scientists because all the other teams were military.
Yeah.
Or if it was almost a subtle experimentation to see if maybe the biological makeup of females in the Shimmer would have a different effect. I couldn't tell. I would have accepted either.
Yeah, I would have accepted it, yeah.
I might have even preferred it if it was a canonical reason to do with like they're being manipulated into being in that situation because they want to find out more answers because they've got nothing out of there. And that's one of the big things about the film. Not a single team that's ever gone in, nobody's ever come out except for Natalie Portman's
And that also
husband.
goes for drones. Like, everything that went in there never came back.
Nothing comes out. No signals, no photos, no video, satellite images. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
The basic premise behind this is a meteor crashes into a lighthouse, and there's like it's almost like it's like biological. I mean, radioactivity. Well, radioactivity is waves. This is kind of like a biological radioactivity as it spreads and alters the genetic makeup.
Which is interesting to look at.
So the thing with the cast, fucking hell, they were good. They had some heavy hitters on that cast. You might only recognize Natalie Portman and Jennifer Jason Leigh, I think is the other one. She was the boss lady.
Yeah.
You might only recognize those 2, but the other 3 have got very strong careers behind them, even if they're just starting. So, the Valkyrie from Thor Ragnarok was the young paramedic.
Oh, okay.
I didn't recognize her. Did you?
No, I didn't.
No. One of the other ones, I cannot remember her name, but one of the other ones has also got like a very strong career in television and that. And the other white chick, the slightly older white chick, she has a very long career in Swedish film industry. This is her first American film, her first English-speaking role. So they're massive, very talented, very experienced actors. And yeah, it was really interesting to see them at work because they all held their own. And a lot of these films, when they have an ensemble cast, they can get bogged down in like trying to explain everybody's stuff too much or giving some people not enough time.
Yeah.
Like the Hawkeye syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
But that's what I'm calling it. I'm calling it the Hawkeye syndrome. But this film, I think, balanced it really well. Even as the characters are knocked off one by one, they all get a moment.
Yep.
A moment or two.
All the characters have their own personal moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel for all of them. Like, I understood all of their personalities very well. I understood like their motivations, and they explore that a lot as well. The fact that it's very clearly a suicide mission. They go into why anybody would go on a mission like that. It felt like, I haven't seen Interstellar, but from what I understand of the film, it felt like almost like the antithesis of that, where like the idea is like, we've got to go out there and we've got to find a way to save everybody because I've got people to live for back home. I've got to save them.
Yeah.
Whereas in this film, it's like, I've got fuck all left in my life. Like, I might as well just go and do this job because if I don't come back, what have I lost?
Yeah.
Although very interestingly enough, some of the characters do freak out about halfway through the journey and want to turn back.
Yeah, because it gets quite intense.
It does. It's fucking scary. Yeah. So let's just talk about Natalie Portman for a second. This is an actor that I have underestimated, grossly underestimated.
Yeah, she's.
Maybe it's because of Star Wars.
It might be because of Star Wars. I've had a really weird. Her acting career. I've had a really weird.
Like a weird relationship with.
Weird relationship with it.
You kind of almost a dismissive relationship, and then Black Swan comes out, and you're like, well, now I'm shaking. Did you see Black Swan?
I never watched it.
Fucking terrifying. Oh, it scared the shit out of me. I've only seen it once. I own it, but I only saw it once, and it was at the cinemas, and it scared the fucking hell out of me. And even then, there was very clearly like a veteran performer, giving everything they've got. But I guess I was still selling her a little short. That Star Wars cloud was still hanging over my head. Yeah. It's fucking gone now.
Yeah, I know. I do have to say, also in Thor, she wasn't.
Well, I liked her in Thor. That's and maybe, but again, that may have also contributed to underestimating her. I really liked her in Thor. I thought she was really fun, and she played smart really well, and she does that in this one as well. She's not an actor that struggles with the intellectualities and more complex words and long-running sentences to do with complex hypothetical situations. She handles them really well, and I believe she's got like a very high education outside of art. But maybe Thor had something to do with it as well. I wonder if she'd come back to the MCU if they gave her a Thor.
Maybe.
I'd watch the shit out of that.
It depends.
Especially after this. There's a scene in the film, it's in the trailer, where the first like mutated creature they come across comes out at them. Yep. And they talk about in the film how she's got military training. Man, she wears it. She just props herself down, and it's in the trailer. She just keeps going and doesn't stop.
Yeah.
It's really intense, and it's really indicative of her abilities as a performer. I can tell you from now on, if Natalie Portman's in a movie, there's a good chance I'm going to go see it.
Okay. Yeah. But back to the topic of the women cast.
Yes. The anti-Ghostbusters.
Yeah. About that.
I'm an adult virgin.
Yeah. I've noticed a lot of all-female casts lately. It's always been a huge thing. Like, oh, they're gonna be all-female casts.
They make a big deal out of it, yeah.
But they always put them in stupid movies. Like, for example, Ghostbusters.
I think they try to put them in selling movies. They're like, because they're like, this is a big risk, putting women can't carry a movie around because apparently we're still in the fucking 50s.
Yeah, apparently.
But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Like they had Ghostbusters a couple of years ago. Ocean's 8 is coming out this year with Sandra Bullock, Cate Blanchett, and a bunch of others. Great cast, awesome cast. But I get what you're saying. Like we're using existing properties to try and sell women.
Yep.
And it's kind of insulting.
Yeah, it is a bit.
As a white straight male, I find it personally insulting. I obviously, I don't have a dog in this race, but
when I was watching Annihilation, I never actually even thought about that. When I was watching it, it felt very natural in the movie. Like all the female cast was like, okay, all females.
Yeah, looking at the marketing, I don't think that it had anything to do with it.
They didn't even like say anything about it.
No, if anything, like they showcased Oscar Isaac a lot more than he was actually in the film.
Yeah.
But it's a fucking just amazing cast, amazing performance on all of their parts. And part of that, and I think I probably enjoyed the film more because there were less males in it. I don't know. I'm getting sick of men. They're starting to bore the shit out of me.
It's sort of like we already know what would happen if it was a male cast.
Yeah, they would have gone in. They would have shot. Well, we saw it on the little camcorder in the film. They would have lost their minds.
Yeah, they will lose their minds.
Men are simple creatures. They're simple beings. I'll bet you none of those men turned into flower people. Small spoiler. I won't contextualize that, but yeah.
Yes.
No, I think it was a progressive film in that sense. Do you think it's definitely a point in the pro category for me in terms of that the discussion that's happening in the industry at the moment about women in film. If only the director had been a woman.
Multiple women.
If only the director had been a cluster of ladies. No, he's good though.
Yeah, he's
holy shit.
Director.
Do you watch CinemaSins at all?
No, I haven't.
I watched their take on Ex Machina.
Yep.
And it might have been the lowest sin cut I've ever seen them give on a film. They praised it the whole way through. Obviously, like, they're nitpicking bastards and all that, but it's always, with their stuff, it's always satisfying when they point out something and they go, "That's amazing."
Yeah.
And I believe one of the things they said in it was, this is a master of his craft in total control of his world. And it stands true for this one as well. Regardless of the effects, like maybe sometimes being a little bit lackluster, he is still 100% in control. You see everything you need to and not a moment more. Let's talk about the music.
Oh yes, the music, which was only in one part of the movie.
Almost none.
Yep. It
Almost
was
none.
It was a very quiet in that sense. The music was very. It was super subtle in some parts, and
It was almost a completely natural soundscape.
it was mostly just the environment sound. And like, for example, when they're outside of the shimmer, you could hear the rumble of the shimmer slowly approaching, and that was interesting to hear. You can just slightly hear it in every moment there was characters talking. You can hear it in the background, just like rumbling away. And
It was extremely effective. It reminded me, in the old days, when M. Night Shyamalan was still respected as a director, he would approach a film and he'd go, "I'm not going to have any music in this film." He did that with The Sixth Sense. He did it with Signs.
Yep.
And he did it with Unbreakable. He's like, "No music. I'm not going to have any music. It's going to be totally natural." No. And then he met James Newton Howard. And he was like, "Well, his score was so good, I had to include it." And then he did it again, and then he did it again. And I'm glad he did, because the music in Signs, the score for Signs, is one of my favorite soundtracks for any film. But this is the case where they sat down and they said, "Nope, I'm not doing it. You can't make me. No music. Eat shit. I don't give a fuck." It was really ballsy. It's and it really shows the importance not just of having a good score, but using it well.
Yeah.
One of the things that bothered me about Jurassic World was there were several moments in the film where I'm like, cut the fucking music. You are making too much noise and you're losing so much of the edge of this moment.
Yeah.
And they just were like, bam, bam, music, violins, and I'm like, just shut up. Whereas this film almost made you, like, you expected it, because that's what you get in those kinds of movies.
Yeah.
There are 2 or 3 major attacks, violent attacks.
Yeah.
Not a sound except what's happening.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, these sounds feel the same as when you're camping.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden someone's screaming.
Yeah, it's because there's a scene where one of the characters gets attacked, and it's not like with most movies it'd be like a sudden loud bang.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what happens is the character's standing at a doorway, and suddenly she gets pulled in.
Gone.
And then all the characters are standing there like, "What do we do?" And it was quiet, and except for the screaming and what's happening. Then they were like, "Fuck, we gotta go in there."
That whole scene, not a drop of music.
Yep.
Just like she's being attacked. It's in the water. What do we do? It comes out. The whole thing was designed to feel real.
Yep.
And that's so effective. I'm not going camping again for a while. This is the scariest camping movie ever. One of the first things that happens when they enter the shimmer, she wakes up after the first night and she's like, "I don't remember setting up my tent." And they're like, "Yeah, we've lost 3 days rations."
Yeah, they like lose like 3 days worth of stuff just by entering it.
The first thing that happens in there, the shimmer basically
have
says,
no idea
"I don't
how
give
long
a
they've been
fuck
in
what
there."
you think. I don't give a fuck what you know. It doesn't matter. It's over. You're in here. You're in my house now."
Yeah.
And then they spend the rest of the film like looking at these mutations, and they have an interesting theory on how it happens. I won't get into that because it's an interesting moment, and I'd like people to discover it for themselves and have their own thoughts on it. I liked it. I thought it added up in that world. What did you think of it?
It was interesting. I wanted to know a bit more about it, but it was interesting seeing everything at a constant state of mutation. Like the plants, like they were looking at a plant and it had heaps of different types of flowers on it, but Natalie Portman's character said it's all the same plant, and it's in a constant state of mutation, and everything is just going nuts.
Well, I think mutation's probably the wrong word. More like crossbreeding.
Sort of crossbreeding. It's more like...
Because that's their explanation.
Yeah, it was crossbreeding with everything.
It's like all the DNA was shaken up and everything like started to mix together.
Everything was mixing. Like, as you see in the trailer with the deer.
Yeah.
There was like... The deer was somewhere in between plant and...
There was a weird harmony with the organisms as well. Like when you see the deer, they move almost in complete synchronicity.
Yeah.
And there's something really odd about that.
Yeah, everything like had... It was like... everything had like a double effect as well.
Yeah.
everything was doubling, and
It was all about mimicry.
mimicking. Yeah.
So the final part of the film. Let's. I don't know how much of this to discuss because it's really. It's just such a good movie. Like, I really don't want to spoil much of it. Okay, we won't get into the final 30 minutes.
Actually, there is something I need to talk about that part, but I won't say what's happening. The animation of the thing.
Yes.
When it was in its final stage.
What you might call almost the main antagonist of the last.
Well, it wasn't really.
You might call it that.
Yeah.
It was the final conflict in the film.
A lot of people, like, for example, Chelsea was watching it, and she wasn't watching it. She only looked over and saw it for a moment, and she said the animation looked kind of wrong, and I actually sort of disagree with that, even though it was trying to be something.
Tell you what, we can't discuss this properly without actually saying what it is.
Yeah.
So, spoilers. We're gonna go into the ending here. So if you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix. It should be available for all of you if you have Netflix. Go watch it and then come back and watch this bit. All right. So yeah, the ending. You've been warned. The ending involves Natalie Portman finding the place with a camera set up that shows what happened to her husband, supposedly. She encounters the main source of all of this, and it takes a bit of her blood and then spits out this weird, kind of looks like the bad guys from X-Men Days of Future Past. The Sentinels.
The Sentinels.
So this humanoid but like scaly thing, and it chases her out.
Yeah,
into the lighthouse.
The mimic.
And then it mimics her movements.
Yeah.
So was Chelsea describing that creature?
Yeah, she was saying the animation of it looked kind of wrong. I actually disagree. Even though the animation was slightly off, I actually feel like it added to it.
Yeah, me too.
It was off-putting.
You were like really looking at it and you were like, something's wrong, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like an effects problem. It just feels like a what the fuck is going on problem.
Yeah. I enjoyed it because Chelsea watched it out of context. She just
looked up and she goes, it looks like shit. Anyway.
Yeah, and I've actually found it interesting because it was so off-putting. It was trying so hard to be her. But it didn't understand any.
Well, they talk about in the film how it doesn't want anything.
Yep.
It just does. It just reacts and then it mimics. And it really made me think about that final confrontation, which is kind of like it's a completely wordless moment, and that's the moment where you notice the music. But even as fucking music was playing, there's like this weird distorted trombone sound, and I could not tell if it was music or if it was supposed to be like a vocalization by the creature. I know which one I prefer, but it was like this moment. It was like a dance.
It was.
Yeah, and it was almost like that was the reason this moment got the music, because it was like an accompaniment to it. And you could see how she was working out the situation in her head.
Yeah.
So how did you interpret the death of the creature?
The death of the creature, to me it felt like it didn't understand why she did that to it. The creature wasn't evil. It was
neutral.
It was a neutral thing. It was doing just what it does. It was like some sort of being that is capable of forcing evolution in a weird way.
Yeah.
And
like interrupting the natural process and almost like boosting it.
Yeah, and it does it to everything,
by existing.
Just not organic things. It does it to everything around it. Like the sand was turning into massive glass trees.
It was forcing some kind of reaction between anything, any kind of matter.
Yeah, it was interrupting everything, but the creature. I don't know why. I felt sort of sorry for it after it was burnt because it looked like it didn't understand.
Yeah, I felt the same way. So you felt like she destroyed it, and it was like, I don't know what's happening, and then it goes away.
Yeah, and it dies.
So my interpretation of that was she figured out that it's not attacking her, it's just doing what she does, and then she decided that what her intent is its intent.
Yeah.
So her intent was to destroy everything. So she tricked it into destroying everything because it doesn't have a want.
Yeah.
it wants what she wants, basically.
Yeah.
So that's how I interpret it. It has the bomb. It remembers what she remembers. It pulls the thing. It blows itself up.
Yeah.
And then it looked to me like it was deliberately lighting other things on fire. It didn't act in a way like it was in pain or roll around. It looked like it was very deliberately burning things.
Yeah.
So that's what it looked like to me. It looked like she worked out that she could not confuse it, but just bend it to her will.
Yeah.
And then off it goes, and it knows that it's supposed to be doing what it's doing, and that's how she gets to escape.
Yeah. And
But then, the end, what?
I feel like she's been in there for a bit too long, and
Well, about as long as him.
oh yeah, and it could say that a part of it lives on inside of her.
Well, that's just it, because when she burns the source, everything goes.
Yeah.
It all is destroyed.
Yeah.
So I had this theory. So, because in the context of the film, again, major spoilers here, in the context of the film, we understand that the husband was replaced.
Yeah.
My thing was that the only way that could work is if she also was replaced.
It could
So
be
my theory,
that
Heather
she
disagrees.
she could have twisted the story slightly.
Well, yeah, this is just it. This was all told from her point of view. Maybe it's not the way maybe it didn't happen the way we were told. That didn't occur to me.
Yeah, she was telling the whole story to the scientists.
There were
It
moments
could have
where
been-
she omitted what actually happened.
Yep. But the thing is, we don't know how much of it was that could have been told truth. She could have been the one who blew herself up.
Well, there were definitely moments where she was like, "Yeah, it happened this way," and then in the film, like,
It
or she
happens-
said, "I don't know," but it definitely happened in front of her,
Yeah.
and she definitely remembers because otherwise, what else are we looking at?
Yeah.
So it could very well be, yeah, that she lied, and she's a replacement, but doesn't he? But the husband doesn't even know if he's a replacement. He doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
He kind of knows,
He
but
kind of knows,
not
but he
really.
doesn't know.
And when the shimmer's destroyed, he wakes up.
He wakes up and
And
it's completely fine.
And is it because that connection to it makes it difficult for him to survive outside of the environment?
Maybe. It's maybe because it was.
Does that
There's like a part
extra
of him that wants to stay in it, and as soon as that connection was broken, it
could
it
be?
like it severed the connection, and then it just continued staying what it was.
No, could be, could very well be.
And
So my theory was that, and Heather disagreed because she said that there wasn't room in the editing. As far as no room in the editing, I point to Dark Knight Rises, but whatever. So my theory was that she is in this tussle with the creature. There's a moment where they fall back down, and it cuts to. There's a moment where they both fall back down, and it cuts to outside for a moment, and then cuts back, and that could be a moment where she's knocked unconscious, replicated,
Yep.
killed. So her real body's taken away. She's left with a replicated body.
Yeah.
That isn't her, but she thinks it is her because she has all the memories.
Yeah.
And then it's the two replicants fighting, more or less. And because it's her again,
Yeah.
she has the insane intent. It happens the way it does. And then she gets out, and now she's a replicant. It looks in the film like she's never knocked out because they fall down, and when it cuts back to her eyes are open.
She looks
and it
pretty
looks like
fucked up, that
she does
scene.
look fucked up, but she looks like she's thinking. So it looks like the intent of the shot was for it to look like she was like, "Oh, I understand what I can do to get out of this." It's not a film. Sometimes films, when they leave you with too many questions, it's just annoying.
Yeah.
Kind of like Dark Knight Rises, actually. It's like, how did it happen? It's like, I'm so annoyed right now. I need an actual credible theory because this is not a film grounded in mystery. I'm sorry, you don't get to do that.
Yeah.
Whereas Annihilation is very much grounded in like, I don't know what's happening. You don't know what's happening. Nobody knows what the fuck is happening.
Yeah.
So you're allowed to be left going, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
So I might wrap it up there. Final thoughts?
It was enjoyable. I found it quite enjoyable. And yeah, it was actually from what I heard before I watched it, I thought I was going to find it a bit
Really? That's interesting.
because I heard that it wasn't that good. And I kept hearing that and
Too intellectual. We're the smart ones.
yeah. When I was watching it, I understood everything that was happening. Like everything that was explained, I understood all of it.
Or even if you didn't understand it, like,
You
there
had
was
a
a
good
theory. You
concept.
had a working theory.
Yeah.
You didn't need to know everything. Like, Heather was annoyed when the girl who turns into the flowers disappeared. She's like, "Where did she go?" I'm like, "Well, she became flowers. Obviously, it doesn't matter.
She became one of those plants.
You saw everything you needed to. It's okay. You can have some mystery."
Yeah.
Was there a favorite moment for you?
The bear scene.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing.
I really enjoyed that scene.
Holy shit!
One of the characters gets killed by a bear earlier.
A bear thing.
A bear
It's
thing.
like a bear with half its face ripped off. Don't feed the Yaguai.
And one of the other characters thinks Natalie Portman's character lied about her death because she was the only one who went to look for the body.
Saw the body,
and
yeah.
She saw the body. But when this character ties them up, she hears that person crying out for help. So she runs out and you hear this bear sound and something.
Sure. Yeah.
And then this huge bear starts walking
Big
into the room.
fuck off zombie bear.
And
Gets
what
like,
I liked about it was it wasn't a jump scare. None of it was a jump
No,
scare.
it was just
really,
like, oh my God.
really slow. It
Yeah.
was just slowly coming
Well,
in.
'cause that's-
And it was making the sound of the woman.
Yeah, well, and
It
the
was-
main characters were trapped in their seats. They couldn't
They
go
couldn't
anywhere.
move.
And she's just like, don't fucking react. And it would like come up, it would open its mouth, and instead of a roar, it would be like this raspy, like, help, of the voice of the woman. And it's like, oh my God, this is a fucking horror. I've just started thinking now, what if the reason it didn't just attack them is because they say that the reason it was able to mimic her voice was because they were like melded together maybe when she died. I started to wonder, maybe if the reason it didn't just attack them straight away is because it was part of her still there.
Yeah.
It sought them out because those were the people she was with.
Yeah.
Like, it was like a part of it was like, I've got to get back to them. But then the moment they
But then
reacted, the bear takes over and
Yeah.
gets aggressive.
Yeah. That was quite a scene. I was just like, shit.
It might be one of the scariest things I'll watch in a while. I mean, A Quiet Place and It Comes at Night are about. I'm gonna see them soon, so maybe they'll be scarier. But yeah, this is not the thing about this film. It's a pure science fiction. There are science fiction horrors, there are science fiction comedies, there are science fiction adventures. This is 100% science fiction.
Yeah.
It's not a horror.
No, it's not a horror.
It's not a thriller. It's not an adventure. It is almost completely and utterly just the science fiction element.
It's like it's from what I've gathered from what it was just a science expedition.
Yeah.
They were trying to
Basically.
figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And yeah.
On an alien yet familiar world.
Yeah.
So yep, this is a winner for me. It's honestly, I don't think it was too intellectual. I thought most of the time you're supposed to be confused, so
Yeah.
don't feel bad about that. But otherwise, like, if you enjoyed Ex Machina, you'll fucking love it.
Yeah.
This is him back as good as he was before as a director. An amazing cast, a very well balanced film, and I was captured every second of it. Yeah,
It was, I really enjoyed it.
definitely. Alrighty, well, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Even if you didn't, go ahead and like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Check us out on Facebook and check out our website, secret-source.media. We didn't introduce ourselves at the start, but honestly, this is like episode 22, so if you don't know by now... I'm Dylan.
I'm Luke.
And this has been You're Wrong, the Great Film Debate. Catch you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.